Good morning, everyone. This is Virgo Triad here, and it is October 13th, 2017. Happy Friday to everyone. Today's video is going to be part of our debt consolidation series, and this video is all about how to understand and read your credit report. Now, this is important to understand what types of information that your credit report contains and how to read them, because these items directly contribute to your credit score. And when you have good credit, it's easy to qualify for financing when you need it, whether it's a new car or a mortgage or a credit card. But if you have a problem with your credit, understanding your credit report can help you to identify the problem areas and work on improving them. And that's what we're trying to do in this series, is ensure that everybody who has problems with their credit report or has debt that is becoming out of hand for you, that we are giving you information on how to deal with this, not only from a debt perspective, but also from the perspective of making sure your credit score reflects what it really should be. So this is going to have a few different sections to it. I'm going to skip the first section because it's already been done in my previous video with regards to how you access your credit report. And if you need information on that, just go back to the video, to my main channel section and the video that is explaining to you how to get your credit report in hard copy by mail. We're going to go right into what information is actually on your credit report, and we're going to decipher that information for you so that when you receive all three of your credit bureaus, you're able to easily read it. Now, for some of you, this is just going to be a refresh because it's going to be obvious information for you. But for others of you, this may be the first time, or it may have been a long period of time since you've actually accessed a credit report. And in that case, they have changed a lot. Matter of fact, Experian, the company that we're looking at the sample credit report for, used to be what was known as TRW. So a lot of things have changed over the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years. And for some of you, it's going to have been about that long since you've actually held a copy of your credit report. So let's go ahead and get right into this. Um, we're going to assume that your credit reports have already arrived in the mail, that you have the hard copies of them, which the Experian one will look similar to the screenshot that you're looking at right now, which this, of course, is just a sample credit report that I requested in order for you to be able to take a look at what each individual section means. Okay, now that you know how to get all of your credit reports from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, let's take a look at some of the information that you're going to find there. Some of it is very basic and easy to understand, while other parts do require a little more analysis. The good thing is that you're only going to need to take a look at this video maybe once for you to get it pretty rapidly. It's not all that confusing until we get to the dispute process, which will be coming up very shortly in our series. Once everybody has had the opportunity to get their credit reports, immediately you're going to need to read it, decipher it, analyze it, and then we're going to take a look at disputing the items that are problem areas for you. But we're not getting into that today. The first thing we're going to take a look at is going to be right up here. This is the section that provides personal information. And believe it or not, that is something you're actually really going to need to take a look at. First of all, who the report is prepared for, your name spelled correctly and as it is legally should be at the very top. Make sure everything is accurate, because believe it or not, that does make a huge difference in terms of you're going to find a lot of times over to the side here, you'll find an alias that you may have never used. It's a good way to take a look at whether they're reporting your name and who you are, and if they're really your debts accurately. Make sure that the date is accurate in terms of it being really something that has been processed, very, very recently since the date that you requested it. And you're going to need to keep track of this report number. This is absolutely one of the things that does not come on a a copy that you get online. You need that report number, and there are other numbers on your reports that are hard copies that will not come on an online web report. So again, very important that you order these by mail before we start doing any disputing of problem areas. So again, the basic section is fairly easy to understand, but there are going to be some additional details that are actually on this section up here in the personal section on the front page that you will be able to take a look at that are going to not be as just plain as what you're seeing on the sample credit report. For example, you're going to see information that includes not only your name, but any former legal names, aliases, current and past addresses, birthdays, social security numbers, employers, spouses information, wireless numbers. You'll be able to see things like previous employers, email addresses. You may or may not have a lot of information in this section depending on how often you've actually applied for credit, okay? For example, your employer doesn't send any information to the credit bureaus, and this section isn't meant to serve as a resume. Instead, a lender may report your employer information from a loan application that you've submitted. Any personal information shouldn't affect your credit score, but is instead used to verify your identity when needed. And that's why a lot of times when you will attempt to try to get a bank account or you attempt to apply for a credit card or a loan online, they'll ask you this series of 2 or 3 questions. And you're thinking, how in the world did they get this information about an address that is 29 years old? This is how they got it. So you want to verify that all of that information is actually accurate, and make sure that anything that is inaccurate you notate to the side or on the back of your credit report, so that way when we go into the dispute process, it can either be corrected, or in some cases we can take a look at it to ensure that there isn't fraudulent activity that's going on. Okay, and then in this area, you're going to find what's considered to be a account summary of all of your debts and where you stand with each one of them. Now, I'm going to be going off into a different section here on a couple of other videos that will describe to you just exactly how an account goes into collection, just exactly what type of reporting is done on those type of re reported debts and charge-offs and that sort. But in this case, I'm just going to briefly go over them. You'll see 4 categories. You're going to see mortgages, installment loans, revolving credit, and other types of debt. Your report also gives you an overview of the status for each category type. So for example, if you have a mortgage, you'll see your balance, the original loan amount, and how many total balances you have. For revolving credit, you're going to see your total balance owed for all your cards, how much credit you currently have available according to the last update, and your debt to credit ratio, monthly payment amounts, and the number of accounts with a balance. You'll see the same information for installment loans as well. Okay? Now, if you take a look at our screenshot here, which I know is a bit blurry because I had to actually blow the scan up, but what we're looking at here is who the account is with, their address, the partial account number. Now, let me say, partial account number is part of our problem with getting your reports online. You need to have the entire account number. And the reason why is because although you may have the total account number for an account that is current, if you have a problem account that's, say, in collections, you're going to have a previous account number from the original debt, but then you're going to have an additional account number for the collection agency. A debt cannot be recorded twice. It can only be recorded once. So you can see how it's very important that in order to dispute, you must have the full account number. And if it's in collections, you may have never gotten that account number. We can dispute that account just simply on the fact that you have 2 accounts that are of the same debt. So I need for you all to ensure that you do get those credit reports by mail in hard copy, because you will not have the full account numbers if you order them by web. Okay, moving on, you're going to have the address identification number. That's another thing we absolutely have to have in full. Your payment history, which tells you the date that the account was opened, which also you will see up here in this section. It's going to tell you your status for each individual month on the Experian credit report, when it was first reported, the date of the current status, which in this case, this is just an example one. So status-wise, this is a snapshot in time for November of 2004 on this sample report. The type of account, so in this case, it's a revolving account from Fingerhut Credit Advanta. The terms are not reported by the creditor, although again, that is actually something that needs to be addressed on a real credit report because that's important in terms of your credit score and how it is reported and added up. Your monthly payment of what it would normally be, your credit limit or your original amount that you financed, and the high balance. Your recent balance as of the previous 30 days or 28 days, however the cycle revolves, which normally we would find in the terms. The responsibility, which is individual, unlike it would be if it was a business or a sole proprietorship under business credit, or joint in the event that it is a spouse or a secondary party involved. Status and how it relates to this particular credit report in this snapshot in time. In this case, this is giving you an example of a discharged debt through bankruptcy chapter 13, which in reality, this is not reported accurately if it really was discharged through a bankruptcy, because in this case, a chapter 13 is a assessment of debt and going into different forms of payments, and it would be reported absolutely separately as a secondary debt. But we will get into that information later. The account history, debt included in Chapter 13 bankruptcy on November 7th of 2014. Now, that is just about all you're going to find in this particular section. What we're going to take a look at now, and this is just a hint that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. If you are in the middle of a loan application and you need to boost your credit score by a few points or lower your debt to income ratio in order to qualify, you need to ask your lender to perform what's called a rapid rescore. And once you've settled your balances. So in other words, let's say that you have a collection account with Fingerhut right here. Okay? They're claiming that your high balance is $501. And what I'm going to show you how to do in this case, let's say that you are applying for a home loan. The only thing that's holding you up is the fact that you have this one account that happens to be, we'll say, in collections. We'll forget all about this sample stuff of bankruptcy. We'll pretend like it's in collections. You have a high balance of $501, and the lender says to you, you know what, we can get you qualified at a 10% less interest rate that is fixed interest rate for a 15-year loan at exactly what you're wanting it to be at, but you have to get rid of this collection account. One of the things I'm going to be showing you later in this series is how to negotiate down a settlement on your collection accounts or charged off accounts and absolutely have them removed at the same time with a letter that you can provide to your lender that will allow them to see that this debt is in the process of being removed from your credit report and has been settled sufficiently. So what we would do is we would go in and we would offer them, say, 40 cents on the dollar. In this case, you're going to find that you would pay 40% of what the high balance is, and in exchange for settling that account, then Fingerhut is required at that point to provide you with a letter of credit update that is going to be removing this account as a negative and showing it as simply settled. Okay? We'll be getting into that a little bit later. But once you do that, and you know that it has been taken care of and you have the letter in your hand, you can also request at that point for a rapid rescore to be run by your lender, which means that they will run a rapid rescore that will allow the credit bureau to go back and pull what it is that's being submitted for the next month, for that particular month. In